This archetype is shaped by emotional neglect masked as responsibility, where the child learns that having needs creates tension, guilt, or disappointment, and so survival becomes synonymous with self-erasure. Chapter 1. High-impact hook and core paradox.
This archetype is shaped by emotional neglect masked as responsibility, where you learned early how to stay quiet. Not because you were shy, but because you were observant. You noticed how the room shifted when you asked for something, how sighs got heavier, how silence stretched longer, how love felt conditional, so you adapted. You became the good student, the one who didn't complain, the one who handled things alone, the one who said, "It's okay," even when it wasn't. And somewhere along the way, a quiet rule formed inside you: if I need less, I am worth more. Now here's the paradox. The very trait that once kept you safe is the same trait that is now hurting you. You feel shame when you're tired, guilt when you need help, embarrassment when you want rest, reassurance, or support. You don't feel entitled to your needs. You feel indebted for them. And the cruel irony? You are not selfish. You are not lazy. You are not ungrateful. You are someone who learned that love required performance. The thing that protected you once is now quietly draining you.
Chapter 2. Definition and psychological authority.
Psychologically, this pattern does not emerge from weakness, it emerges from adaptation. Let's name what happened. 1. Emotional neglect. Emotional neglect isn't about abuse, it's about absence. It's what happens when your emotional world was never fully mirrored, validated, or held. When your achievements were noticed more than your feelings. When your struggles were met with comparison instead of curiosity. You didn't learn that your needs mattered. You learned that your output did. 2. Parentification. Many good students were subtly parentified, not by being told, but by sensing. You sensed stress, you sensed pressure, you sensed that your needs added weight, so you became easy, self-managing, emotionally efficient. But parentified children don't grow into relaxed adults. They grow into hyper-responsible ones. 3. Hypervigilance. Your nervous system learned to scan, not for danger, but for disappointment. You became attuned to tone shifts, pauses, micro-expressions. Your body learned that safety came from anticipation, not expression. Over time, this reshapes identity. You don't ask yourself, "What do I need?" You ask, "What will cost the least?" This isn't personality, it's conditioning.
Chapter 3. Emotional cost and philosophical weight.
Carl Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. But there is another burden, the unlived life of yourself. Because when you suppress your needs long enough, you don't just lose comfort, you lose authenticity. You trade honesty for harmony, truth for tolerance, selfhood for acceptance. And the grief is invisible. No one sees it when you minimize yourself, no one applauds restraint, no one mourns the needs you never voiced. But you feel it, in how rest feels undeserved, and how pleasure feels excessive, and how asking feels humiliating. The core fear underneath all of this is simple and devastating. If I become a burden, I will lose connection. So you stay useful, capable, quiet. But usefulness is not intimacy, and when a life is built on self-erasure, even success feels hollow.
Chapter 4. Adult manifestation and the unlearning process.
These children grow up, and the patterns don't disappear. They evolve. You might recognize yourself here. You struggle to ask for help even when overwhelmed. You feel guilty resting unless you've earned it. You overfunction in relationships. You apologize for basic needs. You equate worth with productivity. You feel anxious when dependent on others. They become adults who choose partners who take more than they give, stay in careers that reward self-sacrifice, confuse endurance with strength, feel shame when they slow down. But here's the most important reframe. These are coping mechanisms, not flaws. They were intelligent strategies designed for survival. The work now is not self-criticism, it is witnessing. Unlearning begins when you notice the moment your body tightens before asking, when your chest contracts before resting, when shame rises, not because you're wrong, but because you're changing. Awareness loosens the grip. Compassion interrupts the cycle.
Chapter 5. Healing, conclusion, and affirmation.
Healing does not begin with forcing confidence. It begins with safety. Inner child reparenting. You practice offering yourself what was missing. permission, reassurance, patience. You learn to say, I am allowed to need. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to take up space. Shadow work. You sit with the parts of you that learn to disappear, not to erase them, but to thank them. Nervous system regulation. You teach your body that rest is not danger, that dependency is not failure, that expansion does not require collapse. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "The purpose of life is to be defeated by greater and greater things." And perhaps one of those things is a learning to receive. You were never too much. You were simply taught to be less. The goal is not to be fixed, and the goal is to become whole. If this resonated, you are not alone. And if you know someone who lives quietly ashamed of their own needs, share this with them. Sometimes healing begins with being seen.